especially for me, because like we know that Navi's had a couple of adjustments. We also have to see when push comes to shove, if things take a little bit of a downhill turn, can they still manage to work together as a team? As Navi actually go for the instant ban of the Elsa, as opposed to Shikigami, who go with the previous series instant ban that we got to see of that Gambit.
Very interesting. This is going to be a sort of test of Ash's theory here, of taking out the Elsa early and letting Gambit sneak in a little bit later, but it's going to be the double. Navi knowing they have those two bads in a row, Shikigami protecting the Daredevil instead of getting that one-sided Gambit themselves, means that we're not going to see Gambit at all this game, but Navi get their hands on a one-sided Elsa Bloodstone. So it's going to be all about positioning, working out how you can do, while also getting harassed by that Daredevil, one of the few characters that can keep up with Elsa's mobility.
Is it going to be a mirror Daredevil, though? Because if Navi are wanting to run dive, Shikigami having information from the Daredevil passive to inform them of when the dive is hitting could go a very long way of being able to counterplay it, as we actually get Shikigami losing the Venom, but Navi losing Fate's Jeff. So no speed bubbles, no symbiotic shenanigans as well, and also no huge amounts of distances surpassed by the amount of range that the Jeff primary actually has to heal the team a whole 3 miles away. As Shikigami now actually going to be taking the Mantis out of rotation as well, so targeting Navi, which means that they can't have that 12% damage boost on an Elsa to get to play a triple strategist line with a hyper carry solo duelist.
And one-sided Vanguard Daredevil pool, secured by Shikigami, actually able to manipulate that all the way to the end with that protection. And we are seeing some very interesting hovers that I'm pretty sure aren't making it out of Spawn, but we'll talk about that more as we go on in. Overall, this was really solid. The Gambits removed from both sides. I don't know which of these drafts I prefer more. Both these teams have the Daredevil for that a little bit of extra scouting. We've already talked about how strong Vanguard Deadpool can be. It's not going to have the Gambit to follow up with it, but it won't have the Jeff for the extra toy box healing as well. But it's still going to be able to separate people. You're still going to be able to capitalize and potentially see just how quick of a blow up you can get. How well are Navi going to be able to deal with Shikigami's dive style, which can probably best be described as a flock of seagulls descending on the ship?
I mean, not just that, but both teams losing Jeff also means that if you know the teams are going for dive compositions, you can't play the Jeff Rocket backline and be undiveable. As Navi actually, they might roll out on this. We saw Fate yesterday actually going for a little bit of White Fox on Museum of Contemplation before swapping off of it after a failed first fight. But level 1 Crook on that Luna, we could very potentially actually get to see this strategist line come through from Navi's side, having the counter, having that peel, as well as the charm on a 6 seconds to deal with Shikigami's dive when they decide to commit, as we're going to have that Daredevil, the Psylocke, and the Captain America on the side of Isidore looking to hit the back line.
Whereas Leo's going to be looking on that Psylocke to see if they can just get some quick trade outs. Psylocke can very quickly blow up an Elsa if they're unprepared for an initial engage. So Terra will have to be on point for this defense. And of course, it's going to be up to Frost Mountain Jerky to keep track of each other and look out for those defensive plays. A sailing Captain America flying past like a beautiful shooting star, looking for any way they can try and hide into the backline and get some early pickups. Terracave comes on out, but it's going to be Crook that picks off Kaya as they attempt to rejoin their team at this choke point.
I mean, Navi as well, also bullying Shikigami off being able to hold into this point position allows them to actually get the point cap relatively easily. It's just Rashara, and trust me, going in, flooding Shikigami's whole composition to force them up at the point, having to turn around and peel for that backline, which now allows Navi all of this point percentage the longer that this fight goes. They don't even need to chase for eliminations. They push Shikigami out of the space. They don't want to overextend because Nami has actually got one-sided Eternal Bond.
Trying to look for a position, though. Shikigami are trying to create an opening, or at least force out some ultimates as they charge on up and get closer and closer for Navi. Crook again turning so fast. This is something we really just haven't seen Luna in such a long time. The amount of damage output that they can do sometimes while still having that snowball to lock people down when they try and dive the backline. So many members dropping low. Navi, they're going to lose 2 though. Fate goes down, Luna goes down, and it's going to be Shikigami creating an opening. It's a 2 for 3 right now in Shiki's favor, forcing out the invisible boundary, and they're going to get a potential flip if they can get rid of Trust Me here, but Trust Me is not going down. Freezing the Abyss for a little bit of bonus health, forced to swing away, but it's buying time for their team to potentially reinforce and look for a counter, but Shikigami have been able to stabilize. They lose Lindstrom, but still Navi won't give up.
Kumiho or Fate of Both Worlds. Navi have both strategist ultimates available if they want to commit to one of them and keep this all going. It will be the White Foxes. Everyone stacks with Fate, and Shikigami just have no way of just shredding through that 900 HP and managing to find a way back into this fight. It's all going wrong for them. They have to just try to disengage and look for a regroup because we're headed to final fight territory, and Navi have 2 ways of sustaining with both the Luna and the Captain America, and Jerky with the Let the Devil Out can punish Shikigami's lack of strategist sustainability. It all falls to Isidore with the Freedom Charge to keep the team topped up when we have the overtime brawl.
Navi jumped that so well. They literally just fed people onto the point without letting it go down, and Shiki can't even reach the point in time, and they burned ultimates for that. Freedom Charge was used. They couldn't touch the point in time. Navi kept them zoned out too effectively, and that is a almost as worst case scenario as it can be for Shikigami. They only burnt 1 cooldown, but that's 1 less cooldown for moving on. It's already burnt several cooldowns by the looks of those cooldown timers. Let the Devil Out also burned. Gaia, of course, there's resets.
Oh, they use Freedom Charge, Tetchup. That's the pain point. They use Freedom Charge. Because Jerky has Let the Devil Out, Shikigami have no way of sustaining it, and Rojaro has one-sided Freedom Charge, which is going to allow Navi to, just as we saw in the last fight, go aggressive and jump onto Shikigami's position before Leola's is set up to go with Dance of the Butterflies. This is like potentially going to be a very brutal one-sided first fight engagement, unless we get to see Leola's punish Navi's over-aggression and try to hit the backline when no one else is there to stack the damages. But I mean, honestly, Fate can just teleport with Sanctuary and dodge out of it entirely.
That is the risk. They need to make sure that they catch Fate before they can escape, maybe isolated, but if you do that, then you're not hitting a lot of people with that Dance of the Butterfly. This is an almost impossible puzzle to solve, but Shikigami are gonna have to be the ones to do it. As right now, Navi, they take a little bit of the high ground on the main pathway to see if they can just force Shikigami down the stairs and get a high ground position. In comes that Devil Out from Jerky. Dance of the Butterfly will come out to try and counter. Trust Me dropped incredibly low, but Symbolic Resilience says absolutely not. This is stayed on through, and Lindstrom is once again going to be falling down up to 61%. Ultra, there was no invisible boundary available, and with that huge amount of healing removed from the board, Shikigami crumble.
Great split from Navi. Like, Jerky goes in with Let the Devil Out, but it's just Jerky and Trust Me ahead of the rest of the pack. Everybody else stacks with the backline. Rajara with the Freedom Charge gives the sustainability to survive through Dance of the Butterflies from Leola's, so no trades, no opportunity for Shikigami to claw back into that fight on second stage when they hit things like Eternal Bond or Invisible Boundary. They will have those up and available to them before Navi, which is why we're seeing them be a little bit more aggressive and proactive here, but Navi also disrupting that walk-up. Trust Me and Rojaro trading their positions, allowing Terra the freedom of space to turn around and take down Frost Mountain before Shikigami can even commit to the walk. And I mean, they're not going to commit ultimates when they're stuck in this open space. This is just a matter of getting out before you lose more players.
And Navi have literally locked them in their spawn point at this point. Shikigami have no way to push up right now. We are going to see Navi back up for a little bit of a reset. They don't want to get caught too far out of position. They would rather have that high ground. But overall, Shikigami, they have the Eternal Bond. They almost have Invisible Boundary. That could be their opportunity, as Navi are currently a little bit behind in terms of strategist ultimate charge. But overall, it's about even getting to that point. And Shikigami are forced to creep and fight every single inch.
I mean, great disruption as well coming through from Rajaro, the Captain America just going in alone, forcing Shikigami to have to turn and peel and then getting out while still surviving. Is allowing Crook actually to be about to hit Fate of Both Worlds as well. Name opens up the fight with Eternal Bond, but they still lose Kaya. Kumeho Unleashed comes on out now from Fates, and alongside Terror with that Apex Predator, as Shikigami land themselves a little bit too close to the cliffside and clears out the players before there's any opportunity of Invisible Boundary. Isidore still kicking, but unfortunately falls now, which means I don't think there's any opportunity. Oh, yes, just in time. Kaya gets the Strange Portal. Frost Mountain sacrifices the Wolverine cooldown of the Feral Lunge, and it is into Lindstrom's Invisible Boundary, but I mean, Jerky with the Let the Devil Out just goes through the portal and catches two.
Made of both worlds means that Navi is sustaining through this beautiful freedom charge for last-ditch effort, but it's not enough sustain. Kaya falls down to the butterfly. It's literally all they have left unless Frost Mountain can stay up in this fight, but they're off the point again, and Navi take the first map in a 2-0. A beautiful zone on the portal as everyone came through. They were staggered on the reinforcements, so they had the numbers disadvantage, got caught out with the Let the Devil Out for huge amounts of damage, and lost 2 people before the fight even started.
Fate with an MVP on the White Fox as well. I know that America with Valentina Eve yesterday was showing what exactly White Fox was capable of, but so too are Navi. Also, shout out level 1 Crook for yet again managing to perfectly time the lunar freeze of the Absolute Zero onto Shikigami's Name just as they come out of Eternal Bond in that first usage of the ultimate on Cradle. This is something that level 1 Crook's actually done multiple times in the past so that they can catch the CD before they go into Cloak form to be able to use Dark Teleportation at the end of the ultimate.
This is exactly what we wanted to see from Navi. Full control, able to just push back the members of Shikigami. And we were looking at Shikigami, we were saying that we were honestly kind of a fan of their drafting style. They got a lot of tools that we know are super good. That Vanguard Deadpool, they got the Psylocke, which isn't a bad choice, but Navi just made it look like they were just completely baited here. The Daredevil from Jerky was just putting so much pressure onto everyone at all times, and you said it perfectly in the cast, Terror wasn't even touched. He was vibing back there.
Well, Crook and Fate as well, right, Ryan? Like, looking at the statistics,
yeah,
they went down once apiece when Shikigami are running full dive.
Yeah. I mean, they were 2 of the 3 eliminations went against Navi, so that's 66%. So honestly, I think the strategist might be lacking on that one a little bit. But it is kind of crazy how much the meta is like changing and adapting. Navi, yeah, I think Fate has gone down a total of maybe 4 times in 3 maps. So we'll see if he can make it 4 for 4 potentially. We'll see what Shikigami are going to pick map-wise after a quick break.
I'm trying to help.
Lights out. Suffer in the darkness. Let's pop back up under their noses. Us against the world!
My time to shine!
we judge this game to be a 7 out of 10 for Shikigami to give Navi a chance. It might be a 7 out of 100 with how that first map went. Navi are looking undominatable on domination. It really does feel that this game mode is pretty much firmly in their hands. But Shikigami having the choice here to change the map. One thing I want to note, there was that protect over on the Daredevil first. So we did get to see that Frost Mountain versus Jerky Daredevil head-to-head. But Moxie, it did feel not too much of a head-to-head. Jerky kind of unfortunately cleared Frost Mountain, who was usually amazing.
I mean, Shikigami just didn't really get the opportunity to be the proactive dive team, though, since they lost both of those first fights, and Navi did such a good job being able to come through with both the Captain America, the Venom, and the Daredevil, all of who, by the way, did not go down once in that entire map. So that goes to show how adept they are at being able to go in, disrupt, do a little bit of soft dive, potentially some displacement, and then get out without trading their own lives for it. So, like, honestly, I think if you're Shikigami, when you pick this next map, you go somewhere that Navi can't simply dive, because that is their strongest composition.
They can do a lot with that dive. With the invulnerable as well from the White Fox means they're even safer going in as well. It's not a long duration, but it's a lot. Any opportunity where you're not taking damage while you're in your opponent's backline is just massive. And we love to see that while also how White Fox being okay against dive itself with a little bit of crowd control.
I think one of the things for the draft, like, we've seen a lot of, like, Gambit one-sided or Elsa one-sided. Like, that first ban sort of dictates a lot. But because we did see that protect on the Daredevil, Navi were like, okay, we ban out both. So it's like maybe you lean one towards the other, but not getting either seems like a bit of an overstep. But I would also imagine, like, before we get into this map and before we get into draft, I feel like that's the direction it's going, right, Tetcher? That we might see a lot of, like, thinking past the obvious stuff, like the Gambit ban or Elsa ban first.
We're in the early stages of preseason here. This is the time where teams are going to like adjust stuff, experiment with things, especially in matches like this against a team like Navi, where you know they are probably going to finish the group hit first unless Shikigami can bring it back or Heretics can bring something incredible. There's a lot of opportunity for you to adjust, for you to try and experiment with stuff, to try and make something happen, as it looks like we're heading to Central Park for our second map.
Here comes the dive. Here comes the dive. I mean, Shikigami, at least when they go on the defense, they'll get the opportunity to play something, potentially like dive themselves, maybe counter dive with something like a Namor setup, as we see a continuation. Shikigami going to be banning out that Gambit, and Navi once again going for the ban onto the Elsa. Shikigami going to go for the save onto the Gambit this time, it looks like. As Navi, do they go for the Loki ban here into a lead onto Terra, getting to save the Elsa Bloodstone? Yeah, there's the Loki. Say goodbye to the God of Mischief. And hello, Elsa Bloodstone in 3, 2, 1, lock?
1.5, 0.5, 0.25. Yeah, there it is. Elsa's going to be locked in exactly as we would expect when you have one of the best duelists that has been released for Marvel Rivals and one of the best duelist players that we have seen in Marvel Rivals. You put them in the same room. You give them those abilities together. Shikigami, they're going to potentially look once again at a possible one-sided Deadpool as they're going to take that away from Na'Vi. And Na'Vi, they respond with trying to deal with Frost. They remove the Daredevil. This time it is actually targeted, even though they had a solid start. They don't want to deal with it in map 2.
I mean, if you have to attack, right, the Daredevil's already going to be in a position. He'll be able to call out all of your rotations, as well as potentially, when you're defending, get behind you and have to split your attention, so you can't just task yourself with controlling all of the channels of both main, left, and right side. You have to watch out for the threat at your back as well. Yet again, on Convergence, we actually get to see this Mantis getting banned out, which seems to say that we're seeing Triple Strategist much more predominantly, at least for the EMEA region, on Convergence, as opposed to maps like Convoy and Domination, as we get an Invisible Woman protection for Shikigami's last save slot, as they're going to be anticipating a lot of dive. And even though they have banned out the Venom, which I kind of actually like, The Jeff is problematic, yes, but it also means that Fate has to make a choice between getting to play the Jeff or getting to play the White Fox. Removing the Venom, yes, there's still Vanguards who are going to be able to dive, but Venom being able to get in, get out, soft dive, and pull the attention of free players, allowing the rest of Navi's whole team, 5-1 Vanguard player, to take advantage of the rest of Shikigami's core, was just a little bit too problematic that we saw in Krakoa.
Between the Venom and that Deadpool as well, you've basically bowed out everything that could possibly be empowering the Jeff as we head on in. Meaning that, like you say, Fate has to make that decision. Currently, Rajaro might be looking to nick it from him, but we doubt that's probably going to make it out of the spawn. Navi's going to be starting on the defense, which means that Shikigami choosing to attack on this map. They have a lot of options and flexibility here, and they're hovering on some interesting stuff. We'll see how much of that makes it out the door. But the fact Navi are taking a lot longer to decide what they want to roll out with here does potentially show a little bit of a good sign for Shikigami's draft this time.
Oh, I told you in the break, there are certain people that you can't allow to get a hold of Loki, and
true.
Crook is one of them. Fate, I think, was thinking about going White Fox, but we should note this is not played on the latest patch on live, where the White Fox retains the tails when she spawns and also when the Loki goes for the copy onto her. So it looks like a decision is actually made to move Fate off of the White Fox and onto the Cloak and Dagger instead. Good way of reacting to that dive, but also good way of reacting to Shikigami's composition, because we talked about, you know, strength of players being able to get all the way around Central Park. Look at what Shikigami are running. We're back in a Prime Torch Ultron meta. We've got the Angela, the Ultron, the Mantis, and the Human Torch, but not quite the Mantis with the rest of the team, because Terra goes aggressive and takes the Mantis out ahead of time.
The plan for this is to split the team into 2 sets of 3. One set of 3 literally flies around the map and starts attacking from behind, sieging from above with their flying abilities. The other side pushes down main, causes a little bit of grief, but problem with that is you are running Vanguard, Deadpool, Invisible Woman, and Mantis. That is a solid amount of healing and a good amount of damage, but Mantis doesn't have a lot of protection if the Elsa is able to get onto them quick enough.
Oh, great force
but great capitalization by Shikigami, punishing a second attempt by Navi to go for a blow-up here, taking down 3 members, and trust me, is already moving over to Strange, realizing that that could snowball out of hand really quickly.
I mean, yeah, Rajara is going to be intercepted potentially by Isidore, body blocking as well. Leola's entirely out of danger, is going to be able to carve through Terra as well and continue putting the pressure onto Navi, who have no angle control currently. They're just having to hold their position onto the point and wait for level 1 Crook to hit the win condition of the Loki ultimate, which will afford them a little bit more space and a lot of confidence to go forward aggressively towards Shikigami's side of the map. Level 1 Crook, he's got the ultimate open for him. Navi waiting for that opportunity. Terra goes low, and they've already lost Jerky. The regeneration domain a little bit too slow in its activation as we get the Eternal Bond, allowing Navi to walk forward.
Counter portal just came out there for a little bit of cutting off the escape route from the members of Navi to try and capitalize. Here comes the Rage of Ultron to power onto the backline. The Dagger Storm for a little bit of protection is going to force out the Eternal Bond from Fate to allow the Mirror, meaning that currently only ultimate in play while a lot of clones are charged up is the Supernova. But Shikigami, they don't need to use it yet. They've already got 2 charges up. They're all going to try and push it. Invisible Battery is burned, and that's going to allow Navi to push back, forcing Shikigami to pull the trigger, make the most of the heal while it's up, and try and get something out of it.
Wow, Rajar actually held on to Meteor Am for so long through that Torch ultimate. Terra gets hit by Banhammer, does have the peel available from the team with the Bulwark coming through from Rajar's end, and Navi actually, with level 1 Crook's regeneration domain, have been able to stabilize their position. Eye of Agamotto catches Name. Soul Resurgence does not afford CC immunity, but no follow-up damage comes through as Shikigami are keeping Navi occupied behind the point itself. Kaya went in super deep, managing to take out level 1 Crook and also take out Navi's sustainability. There goes their defense, and we head into the second point on Central Park, with Shikigami already making a play to grab a lot of space. And look at Navi's change-up. We're getting Jerky on the Wolverine. This isn't to deal with Isidore on that Doctor Strange. This is for a fastball potential to keep up the pressure onto the Flyers.
How can you deal with flyers? You can play a hit scan and try and ping them out the sky and just try and whittle them down, but there is an extra bit of healing from the Ultron that's keeping it difficult. There's the Guardian Shield. It's going to be difficult to get a beautiful pickup from Isidore. Or you could literally remove them from their team and try and capitalize that way. That could be with the Hulk catching them out the sky or the Wolverine. But right now, they're not getting the chance because great lockdown there. But it is still Shikigami with so much momentum right now, cutting off every reinforcement that Navi sent their way, one by one. And this is a fantastic start from Shikigami in map number 2.
Yeah, Jerky, though, is now onto the Star-Lord, which, in my opinion, is actually a much more effective and consistent counter against both the Ultron and the Torch, especially when you weigh Galactic Legend strength up against Rage of Ultron. That is only if the Star-Lord is given the space to get on top of the Flyers, however. Kyra's going to come on through with a Banhammer. Navi do not have a strategist ultimate to be able to sustain through this. Instead, it's a focus on Terra, just going past Shikigami's whole team and finding the catch onto Leila's with the Elsa's primary. Does trade that position and life to Name, however, to be able to set that one up. But by taking out the Ultron, you've removed the threat of Shikigami walking forward with the Rage of Ultron, and Navi get an opportunity to stabilize their position.
Name and Lindstrom just trading heals in the backline with their patty cake just as they get poked down. Navi are putting so much attention right now onto those flyers that the backline is getting a lot of freedom from Shikigami. Rage of Ultron. Gumiho is unleashed for the counter, but it's melted through by the Rage of Ultron. All that healing removed from the board, and Navi are being cleaned off the board here, forced to use the Fate of Both Worlds to try and sustain through with just one strategist and two duelists buying time, trying to burn through that clock and maybe give an opportunity for Navi to reinforce, but with it being a 3 versus 6, this is Shikigami just picking them up one by one and looking for that second point.
Isidore's doing such a good job as well of keeping Jerky on his toes while also looking for those spear disruptions into the back line. Navi, by the way, the back line has swapped back to what was working for them against this dive on Krakoa with level 1 Crook. As we talked about, Loki not able to have those tails generated when he goes to copy over to that White Fox. Has to go for the Luna instead as Terra, oh my goodness. Even coming back from spawn, losing 2 levels of instinct, Terra is an absolute monster. Shikigami now down as well. The Heaven's Retribution to pair alongside Frost Mountain's ultimate will forge a retreat to try to conserve their numbers as the Angela comes back so quickly. Navi take initiative, moving forward with first ultimate, but Shikigami with the Soul Resurgence managed to sustain through it and turn the tide against Navi instead, catching the disengaging players as well with the speed boost that the Mantis ultimate grants.
The speed boost, the damage boost, and just the hypermobility of that torch, showing that it still has something in the tank, able to just chase them down beautifully. Fantastic soul resurgence to keep them in that fight, and now they're building up towards another Banhammer and their own Heaven's Retribution to try and capitalize to see if they can catch Navi on their way out of spawn. Trust me, is on the flank, looking for an opening, looking for someone to punish, and as the Galactic Legend comes on out, forcing the initial engage already, but the backline is getting turned into a blender by Kaya as Isidore takes down 1. Frost Mountain makes it 2, and Navi's defenses are shattered. Shikigami are pushing into the throne room.
Jerky's onto the Hela, just so you can surpass ultimate economy and have a potential hit scan 2-tapping the Flyers with the Ultron and the Torch, both vulnerable up in the open air. Lindstrom, though, with the Invisible Woman, the Guardian Shield staggering in front of them, denies Jerky the opportunity, just like Isidore denies Terra the opportunity of clutching things up for Navi as we head to this final checkpoint. Crook's not able to get on to the point in time, a hair away from Fate of Both Worlds, which potentially could have turned the fate of Navi with a potential stall of the Luna ult, and Shikigami complete the full push. They look so much more comfortable running the Mantis, the Ultron, and the Torch. You can really see why the Mantis is turning into a priority ban on these convergence maps for a lot of these teams.
This is so different and fantastic to see right now from Shikigami. Now, let's see how they adjust for the defense. Is it going to be the same thing? Make the most of that courtyard where there's a lot of vertical cover to maybe make the most of those flyers? Or do they adjust it to something a little bit more of a dive potential for their opponent's backline, or even more of a bunker-style composition? For now, it looks like it's going to be the exact same because it works really well. NAVI, though, they're the ones who now have to adjust, and you can start to see they're considering options once again. Jerky's looking at the Hela again to maybe just try and hit scan those flyers out the air. They're looking at keeping Terra on the Elsa because it is doing work when it's able to get positioning. And trust me, sticking it on the Angela could give them a way to pick up the sky. Jerky going to stick with what I also agree with you here. The Star-Lord can dual flyers a little bit more consistently and not relying on just damaging through 3 structures worth of healing on 1 flyer.
Yeah, but, I mean, major props to Isidore. This Angela has been doing so much work into denying Jerky the opportunity to be able to do just that. Like, normally if you want to play these flyers, you would address the Star-Lord in the ban draft. But by removing the Gambit, leaving the Star-Lord open, they've just been able to assign Isidore to get that problem solved instead. As Jerky's actually going to go to the name, or Terra already fallen to the amount of incoming pressure from Shikigami's end. One-sided Mantis means 12% damage boost, so all of these hits are really going to hurt. With Navi running Fate on the Jeff and level 1 Crook on the Invis, there's not a lot of great burst healing to stand up to the amount of damage that Shikigami's side can output when they have these defensive positions, and Navi are funneled into one main choke to walk directly into all of it.
Look at the positioning of them here. You can just see everyone's hovering around the top of the courtyard, just making sure that they have full cover and drawing their attention, not just from left to right by flanking from behind, but up and down. You're taking damage from Mag if you step forward. You're taking damage from Torch from above. You've got your attention so split here, and that's forcing Navi to try and go for these isolations. As trust me, it's trying to match Isidore, trying to make something happen here, and they're trying to make it through that gateway, utilizing the Monstro from the Namor on the backline, but Crook is down again. Trust me, is down again, and Navi are cleaned off the board. They've yet to touch the point, Moxie.
That's really unfortunate as well for Navi, because like you're taking this amount of incoming damage, you're looking for level 1 Crook to build Invisible Boundary ahead of Lindstrom, but losing the Invisible Woman in that fight now allows Lindstrom not only to equalize, but to surpass the ultimate economy. Trust me's actually moved over to the 4. This is literally to counter Isidore. The moment that the Angela shows up, the 4 is going to be looking to disrupt and ground and allow Navi to melt through the Vanguard's health. As Rage of Ultron kicks things off on the side of Shikigami, Navi, though, had not committed to the walk until now. They're able to hide out inside the Invisible Boundary and rely hopefully on a shield being able to keep level 1 Crook up, but there is no form of protection, and they lose the Invisible Boundary way too early.
Terra last on the board, picked off by Lindstrom, who's been absolutely popping off this map as Shikigami repel them again. They still have Soul Resurgence as well, but Navi, they do have 3 ultimates in their pocket here. They have access to that Apex Predator and the It's Jeff. This is a fantastic map for It's Jeff due to the very close environmental position. They don't have a lot of setup for the Horn of Proteus outside of that Apex Predator, so we'll have to see where that gets dropped by Jerky. Supernova will be first onto the board, looking into that backline. Does a lot of damage, forcing Trust Me to massively isolate themselves from their team just to find a safe location.
Oh, Blessing of the Deep's already burned. Jerky's about to fall to Isidore, clearing out the lane. Namor gone, Horn of Proteus put on hold. And Shikigami, yet again, going to stave off Navi's approach. They might even be able to find a late elimination onto Rajaro here, who is so incredibly low. No, it's onto Terra instead, and that's even worse. Terra was getting into a position to be on an off angle with the Apex Predator to put the pressure onto Shikigami's back line. Unfortunately for him, though, like, where does Apex Predator even go? Potentially it catches Lindstrom, but it's not going to catch half of the team, who are literally up in the air. Glartrox might be many things, but it doesn't have wings.
Jerky's moved over to the Iron Man just to try and unibeam someone out the sky if they can get in there close and to ping the front line from a distance. Rajmar is able to get the engage onto Isidore, but they turn around, grab Jerky, and Kaya finishes it off. A beautiful execution. Isidore is just the king of the skies at this point, as right now Shikigami, they're down to only having to hold for 17 more seconds, grabbing Trust Me, and we might have to see a portal from Navi just to have any chance to contest this here. Jerky's on the Daredevil now, another swap just to try and get something into this backline. Shikigami, they know there is some flanking going on. Fate rushes in, has the It's Jeff, looking to potentially touch the point for the overtime, which they will be able to do. Dive onto the backline, takes out Jerky, looking for Fate. The Jeff coming on in to see if they can grab someone. The duel between Terra and Frostmount, and he finally takes it, able to isolate them. Fate is taken down. Meteoram into the backline for the Invisible Woman to take out the healing. Looks for the Elsa, but Crocs are not able to find them. Rajaro goes down as overtime is ticking off the board. Jerky's looking for a portal. It doesn't matter though.
It's done. Like, yes, Na'Vi were able to get invisible boundary on the field, but they're not able to hold their position with the actual invisible woman. She has to go unseen with the threat of Meteor M. Like, we got to see just that from level 1 Crook's own POV. Invisible woman off of the point, not able to heal the rest of the team, because if you stay too close, that Meteor is going to come right for you. Shikigami, full hold Na'Vi. I mean, we said threat level 7.5 or higher. Shikigami defending Central Park with that composition, threat level through the roof. We surpassed level 10.
I'm scared. I'm very, very scared. If you look at the healing numbers, the Ultron, who now has those 2 drones, kept up with the Mantis while doing 15k damage. That's more than Rajaro. That's more than Terra. Leo just absolutely doing an incredible job. The zoning potential, but you called it earlier, even though the most KOs, most final hits does go over to Frost Mountain, it's Isidore with the positioning, able to find people, isolate people, and control that battlefield. Na'Vi were never able to get the flanks or the sneaky positions or even just get through main without being harassed and picked off by the Angel.
I mean, it's the casualties. It's the casualties from the side of Shikigami that tell the full story, right? Name goes down once, Leolaz twice, Lindstrom once, Kaya once. So the fact that you're playing flyers who should be vulnerable and get picked apart by Na'Vi, who constantly cycle through so many different attempts at dealing with those flyers. We saw the Wolverine fastball, we saw the Star-Lord. Like you pointed out, we saw break glass in case of emergency at one point. Iron Man come through just to have the Unibeam tracking to blitz down the Torch, the Ultron before the triple strategist sustain could start to kick on through, and it just was not enough. Shikigami was so adept at keeping those flyers in the sky.
Yeah, Shikigami previously cooking with Kaya, cooking up something pretty spicy with the Torch, but we'll have to see what Navi want to do. We have to go to a full convoy map. They're probably going to want to go to something where they can dive a little bit more, but we shall see after this break. Last time that we saw Navi losing in the like sort of main Marvel Rivals circuit was Grand Finals against Virtus.pro, and it's been a while since then, but Shikigami surprising with an interesting composition. Now Navi do have the choice of map. Moxie, I think it would be crazy and hyperbolic to be like ban out stuff like the Torch or the Ultron or the Angela, but we are going to the Museum of Contemplation, so Angela actually probably isn't a bad shout of a ban.
Yeah, but I mean, this is not a good map for Torch, given the fact that there's not a lot of cover, and when you break around those corners, it's into very long angles, which are very nice and open. So I feel like for Navi, at least this being a BO3, they don't have to worry about going back to a convergence, where they would, I'm sure, run into that triple strategist Torch Ultron composition yet again.
Tetra, what do you sort of want to see, like, the adjustments from Navi? Like, are there any players that, like, even though it seemed that the whole team was a little bit perplexed on how to deal with that composition from Shikigami, were there any players that you felt were like, I just need to see a little bit more of you, and if I do, Navi have a strong chance of coming back into it?
Honestly, no. I think everyone on Navi played well. It's just they were outdrafted in terms of the setup here. I'm just happy if this is, as Moxie said in a previous day, this is a amazing map for dive because there are so many flanking positions where you can just wrap around and cause issues. And literally before the break, we were saying we need Navi to maybe go somewhere a bit more dive friendly, and it's exactly what they want. If we're going to see Navi bring it back, this is a really good place to do so. I wouldn't be surprised if this does go 2-1 in Navi's favor, but we saw Shikigami have a really solid draft in that second map, so we know they can bring it against Navi and bring stuff they don't expect. This is their opportunity to keep this momentum going and maybe prove themselves.
I do find it really funny that, like, the draft was so focused on taking some of the duelists out for Frostmountain, you know, Daredevil, anything sort of melee focused, and he's like, you have no idea what I'm about to do to you guys. It really, like, that's a surprising thing, that it really did seem to throw, like, Navi for a loop there. But I think one of the characters that was picked and one-sided for Shikigami, Navi even, I imagine would be the same here, Moxie, would be Daredevil.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Both times we've got to see Navi really, like, want to go to Museum of Contemplation, and as Tetra mentioned, this map is really, really good for dive if you want to play a full dive composition, or if you want to just commit half of your team and more rely on the space that sending, like, a solo Venom in does manage to create for the rest of the composition.
Tetra, I think, this is exactly what you want to see out of groups. Like Navi looking like a strong freight train favorite still in this series, sure, but Shikigami throwing in a lot of curveballs and surprises so early in the tournament.
It's amazing to see. We were looking at this group being like there is a lot of potential for upsets, and already Shikigami coming in, showing us exactly what they can do. I'm going to tell you who's going to be enjoying this the most. Heretics are going to be sitting and watching, because they do not play today. Just like, write that down, and just enjoying every minute of this as we head into the draft. And once again, one-sided Gambit, one-sided Elsa, and a secure on the Elsa being hovered for Navi.
I mean, it feels like Navi have this very strong identity on all maps of just get Terra Elsa as quickly as possible, since you can solo clutch out a whole lot of these fights. But one thing that, like, we're really seeing teams manage to take advantage of if they're able to secure the Gambit is the fact that Gambit empowers so much. If you ban out Elsa, it's like, okay, we've banned out Elsa, we don't really have to worry about what else that Elsa is going to have access to. If Gambit gets through the draft, though, you have to really start thinking, like, is it worth burning a ban on Rogue? Do we have to target out the Star-Lord? Sort of the similar things that we got to see in the last series on Heart of Heaven. So as we can see, like, Gambit is a save from Shikigami's side. Navi instantly have to react with that Loki ban.
One protect on Gambit immediately dictating so much of the rest of Navi's draft of how much they're willing to give on up. The Loki ban comes on out, and they're looking to once again potentially secure themselves a one-sided Daredevil, but they flip it. They're going to take out the Venom. They know that Shikigami do play a little bit of that symbiote themselves, so being able to pressure the backline could still be very tough to deal with, as we already mentioned. Flanking with verticality is Venom's bread and butter, being able to climb literally around the map and find good positioning that way, but that does open Shikigami up to potentially get Frost back on that Daredevil. But they secure the Deadpool instead. They know that Daredevil's good, but they'd rather have that little bit of burst damage and flexibility to potentially put a duelist on the Deadpool, as you've said before.
Yeah, they also removed the Jeff as well, so even if Na'Vi do manage to secure a Venom for their side, it won't be with the symbiotic shenanigans. That being said, Venom doesn't rely solely on that cooldown, especially, as you said, on this map, which has a lot of focus around first corner, especially on verticality, and Venom literally being able to start the fight above on the wall, drop down, disrupt, and get back up, all while creating a whole lot of space for the rest of his team to make a play off of, is going to be something that I'm sure we get to see from Navi's side, considering the fact that they actually go for a save, taking Shikigami's opportunity of banning the Venom out away. So instead they turn their attention to level 1 Crook's hero pool, removing the Loki, as I would assume this will be the lock coming out. Yep, there we go. Loki is just too strong, both in neutral and your ultimate abilities, and being able to get out and disengage everything. So for Na'Vi, it feels yet again we're going to see these like 2 win conditions. Trust me, creating space on the Venom, with Jerky getting to play alongside him and funneling the information of when and where to hit, and in the meantime, Terra taking advantage of all of the chaos and looking to actually find the eliminations that will stick.
Does allow Fate to go back onto that White Fox, with Crook potentially empowering them with that team up, as that is what they start the hover with. We'll see if that's what they roll out with, as they are going to be starting on attack here. This was Navi's map choice. They've got themselves some solid dive to start us off with. They've got the Venom, they've got Captain America here coming back in, a Navi special, and of course they do have the option for that one-sided Daredevil to give them the ability to scout out ahead and choose exactly where to dive, and so they can also have it on defense to see where Shikigami choose to engage them from. Shikigami, though, they're starting a little bit more dive heavy themselves, with Rogue coming in with that Gambit team up, the Wolverine to give even more isolation, and if anyone they grab with that Wolverine, they have a Vanguard Deadpool to isolate them.
I mean, Frost Mountain on this Wolverine could actually play to just counter-grab Navi's Vanguards when they show up for those dive hits, turning what should be a soft dive into a forced hard dive and punishable hit. Because if you're Shikigami, you don't want to commit the dive, you want to actually go for a brawlier playstyle, which suits both the Deadpool and the Rogue to a T. If they go for a dive hit, then Navi would punish with things like the Luna and the White Fox, and we can actually see Fate's moved onto the Rocket instead. Great force physics coming on through from Lindstrom, setting up the elimination onto Terra, and Navi losing a lot of the dash potential, although they're still able to trade it out. Kaya falls, and that's absolutely huge, because Kaya would have hit the ban hammer in the first fight.
Crook able to get a pickup of their own here, and is building up towards a fate of both worlds extremely quickly, allowing the setup, the slow push from Navi. But look at the positioning of Fate there. Not staying immediately on the point, pulling forwards and back until they know where Shikigami are, so they don't get caught out of position. Once they see him, they know they can move forward and position a little bit further forward to get the healing output, as the backline is being dove onto as aggressively as they can by Na'Vi, taking out Lindstrom. Jerky is taken off the map, exactly what you were talking about, by Frost Mountain on that Wolverine, but numbers heavily in Navi's favor, forcing Shikigami to back up. Kaya's going to look for a portal, meaning that they might try and touch that point. For one last delay, beautiful lockdown to try and delay, but Rogue's going to be able to move her way in and touch the point, at least for a little bit of a delay. Great roll flush available, coming on out from Na'Vi to commit to this fight. Everyone on the board. It's so early in this matchup, but every second you burn through, every minute you hold them on this first point is going to be great for the defensive team, and in that case, Shikigami are more than happy to burn that cooldown.
Yeah, the problem is that with Na'Vi going for this dive, like Shikigami having to give up so much space to react to it, there's zero pressure coming out on Fate and level 1 Crook in comparison to the nightmare that Name and Lindstrom are both facing. It did allow, though, Nami to have that first strategist ultimate up and Na'Vi nothing to be able to match it. This time, the same cannot be said. Invisible Boundary from Lindstrom is potentially going to be forced, having to be used to give them the opportunity of burning through the Cosmic Gun Amplifier, and they all get carried outside of it by the Apex Predator of Terror, sending the Glottrox right through. This time Shikigami don't have a reliance as well on a Gambit ultimate to flip the fight. It's the last stand instead, pinning so many players onto the convoy and setting Shikigami up to potentially trade and maybe win out this fight. They think it's winnable, Tetcha. Heartbreaker is ripped through, unfortunately, though, and Layla's investing the Galactic Legend means that Shikigami have so little to grab any space when Na'Vi decide to push up aggressively to take this first fight on second.
They thought it was winnable or at least delayable, but burning a Galactic Legend for that, it's an ability that charges up fairly quickly, but it's still rough to see that. Kaya has moved over to the Hulk, moving off the Strange after that portal earlier, actually close to an Eye of Agamotto. They just much rather have the combo. So looking to see if they can send Frost Mountain deep on in and catch someone out of position. Looking for the Venom there, trying to catch Trust Me on the wall, unable to get that final hit. But now Leo being dove onto the backline. Here comes the Freedom Charge from Raj. Hero's Nami is still trying to cause grief. And once again, you're seeing just the entirety of Shikigami just losing inches and feet of space every time Nami even tried to step up.
Oh, Kaya gets hit by the snare as well from Terra, so can't even disengage. Shikigami, they will have a recontest opportunity here. They have the Raging Roll flush. Na'Vi do have heals to be able to sustain through with level 1 Crook's ultimate, though, and you can use that to damage boost Trust Me's Feast of the Abyss to potentially find the elimination through. That's Feast of the Abyss first. Shikigami still not bowing, saving the Gambit ultimate until now. They've been able to get on top of Rajara 2 before level 1 Crook can heal him, but he's brought back by the Battle Recall Beacon, and Na'Vi still have all of their players in full. Lindstrom's taking so much pressure as well. Na'Vi really wanting to try to take out this Invisible Woman or force the Invisible Boundary before it can be used to stabilize on the point.
Try and get into that backline, but Shikigami, they're building up some ultimate charge. They've been able to hold on once again. Widely considered to be one of the most difficult points on any convoy map to push, but into the backline. Invisible Boundary will come out from Lindstrom, allowing them to keep it going, and catching Jerky with the burst damage that Gambit can do with that Fade deck. Able to push on in to the backline. Isidore looking for isolated members. Could go for Terror, but would rather take out the backline. Let their team deal with the Duelist. The freeze is good, but they still take down Fade and Crook. The Galactic Legend comes on out from Leo a little bit late in that fight, after the push is already concluded, but they are able to make sure that Trust Me retreats all the way back to their team.
Yeah, I mean, Isidore was just the sort of scapegoat there. Going in, getting hit by the CC so that Leolaz did not have to worry about getting hit by the Absolute Zero midway through that Galactic Legend. Kayati is actually swapped onto the Angela, which made it a little bit harder for Na'Vi to be able to successfully land this dive deep into that back line. There we go. Na'Vi tried to formulate the dive on the back line. Instantly, Kaya hits Heaven's Retribution onto the rest of Na'Vi's team, so Terra can't round the corner and shoot in when Shikigami are distracted. But the Devil out comes on through, gets grabbed on up though by both the Rogue and the Wolverine afterwards. They still have been able to keep Jerky up though, and Na'Vi continue to push forward. This time Shikigami won't have a strategist ultimate to stabilize. It feels like this truly is Na'Vi picking up the second point and heading into third.
Jerky going down to just over 60 HP in that fight, almost getting finished off, but Fate with the healing and the very quick Apex Predator from Terra was able to grab enough of the damage and force them out of position so they weren't focusing Jerky, allowing them to continue that fight for long enough to claim that second point. Now, Isidore, sticking on this Rogue, has a Heartbreaker. They also have a last stand for the Wolverine, giving them the opportunity to try and dive on in, but they're not going to have that Wolverine as they're caught out by Terra, getting drained by Isidore, looking for that lockdown with the Raging Roll flush for the commit into the backline, but it's being counteracted so quickly by the Fate of Both Worlds, but that doesn't stop Leo from just unleashing damage, able to take down Terra, but they still have the Rebirth Beacon.
I mean, Na'Vi can keep playing in this fight too, since Rajara has that Freedom Charge. Isidore still holding on to the Heartbreaker. The moment the Rogue ult pops, Na'Vi might be forced to part with the Captain Americas to sustain through, but down Jerky, maybe they're going to start pulling a little bit more back. Missing that Daredevil, they can't make a play to flank past Shikigami's front line, and it does look like the pressure will temporarily ease as Isidore now turns his attention to clearing out all of the potential flanks.
Keeping an eye out on said flanks, looking for an opportunity to either go themselves or catch anyone, as right now Kaya in the Skya is looking to see if they can grab anyone out of position. Freedom Charge from Rajaro to open up for Na'Vi. They want to try and curate as much space as possible. It's going to be Ult Charge boost from the Captain America versus the Ult Charge steal from Isidore, as both teams look to try and build their way up. But Shikigami, they still have that last stand if Na'Vi try to build up a full engage. And Isidore, once again caught away from the strategist, is focused down. The counter on the other side, though, they find Jerky, trying to push forward, trying to make space, but caught out of position.
That was disgusting, Terra. The tracking picks pixel perfect up against Kaya on that Angela. And I mean, this also just has not gone down. So Terra is at maximum ability, maximum threat level, and especially with the 40% damage boost from Cosmic Gun Amplifier, Navi are just not going to get slowed down. Nami, unfortunately, not going to have the Raging Royal Flush for Shikigami to hold their ground and try to answer back. And we're going to go to one final fight. But this time, Navi get to start off already in position to hit Shikigami as they come out of these respawn positions. They will have that Gambit ultimate ready to go to pair with Leolaz with that Galactic Legend, and Navi don't have a way of sustaining through this. They have to just kite it instead. Level 1 Crook falls, Terra shortly alongside 2, and in the overtime, this should be enough for Shikigami to finally clear Navi off of the point and let them come to a hold.
Jerky's rushing the point, just trying to delay. He gets a bonus health, but there's only so much one Daredevil can do. Terra's rushing a portal, but there's no way it's going to make it in time. Shikigami do hold pre the triple cap, but that was a lot of distance on a map that is notoriously hard to break through point 1 and 2.
Yeah, and I mean, Navi as well. Like, that dive is just going to be so good on the defense. Because, like, something to talk about for Shikigami, right? First on second especially, they were so preoccupied defending against the dive that we saw things that they could be used to aggressively set up their own compositions, like the Heaven's Retribution, turned instead and thrown to prevent Navi's momentum, which just meant that Shikigami never really got the offensive capabilities. They didn't take first turn, they had to play second fiddle. And that is not going to work when they're on the attack, because I mean, if you play for second turn, Navi don't actually have to do anything. They just get to sit back and be like, if you're not going to make a move, we're just going to let time burn out and you play yourself.
And looks like Navi are going back to an old classic on defense. They're sticking with a little bit of dive with that Venom, but they're actually looking for a bunker-style composition. A classic who's moving away since Elsa has been released from the 3 Vanguard, 3 strategist setup, because Elsa's really good, in case you didn't know. So being able to go in with someone who can dive and set up with Trust Me on that Venom, having Rajaro on the Emma Frost, we're not seeing it too much recently, but someone who can hold down a frontline solo relatively okay, while having the Mantis and the Adam Warlock to build up as much defensive damage and that little bit of extra stain from potential revive as possible.
I mean, the Anna Psionic Seduction is going to interfere with the Starlord ultimate, also directly interferes with Frost Mountain's plan, but Kaya on that Groot could interfere with Jerky's line of sight, Fate and level 1 Crook as well. If Trust Me goes in and tries to soft dive, there is a high potential that he gets wolf grabbed, and Navi lose the opportunity of creating that space. Indeed, there it is. Trust Me goes for the soft dive, instantly turned with the fast wall, and Frost Mountain's right on top of him. Unfortunately, everyone took their eye off Terra. There's nothing standing in the Elsa's way, and he walks away with the first elimination of the round.
Kaya's trying to create a little bit of a barrier so they can just focus on Trust Me when they move in. We're utilizing these walls to separate them, but in the meantime, too much damage coming in. Terra with the bounce on that living gunshot is able to create too much space. Moving on in, beautiful tracking and pickup. Terra goes down to the revenge shot by Leolaz, as once again, Shikigami look for the opening. Trust Me, diving into the backline though. They keep having to flip their attention so quickly. The Wolverine not in position for the pickup that time, but while this is happening, the card is moving forward very slowly. Focus onto the Venom. Symbiotic Resilience forced to come out, so they are going to retreat, and that allows the Raging Royal Flush to come on out. Blaster Mirage with the chase to melt through Adam, forcing out the Cocoon, and he's already only at 63% as the car moves forward.
I mean, it's not moving forward at the moment, though, because Trust Me does what you're supposed to do. You're losing the fight, but you're just going to make sure that you go down on the convoy to give Navi an opportunity. Yes, they don't have players currently, but they've got enough distance and time to set up a strange portal, which means that both Fate and Terra can use their ultimates to flip the fight against Shikigami, who already were in full disengagement, worried they would lose someone the moment the portal opened.
They don't want to lose anyone, but it's also, while this portal comes out, means one more fight, which means Jerky is building their way up to 73% after getting that beautiful snipe onto Lindstrom. There may be an opportunity for a revive. One down, Name off the board. This is a lot of time being gained for Navi right now. This is going to be a full reset from Shikigami. There's no way they take this fight. They even are able to stagger Isidore just a little bit. And this is great news for Navi. They hold, they didn't even use defensive ultimates for that, and they are almost at that Karmic Revival. But Shikigami, outside of Raging Royal Flush, have literally every possible tool.
I mean, Fate should lose the ultimate way up against Nami's Eternal Bond, since more healing, but also Terror Cape vulnerability. But Shikigami just have no control of map space at the moment. Iso's actually going all the way around to mark Jerky. They know the Atom does not have the self-res, but he has to come back to help clear out the Venom. Now you have to deal with Terror popping up on that same angle, and the amount of time that Navi are burning off of Shikigami before they can commit to this fight. Fate comes through with the invisible boundary. Rajara's Eye of Agamotto does unfortunately get CC cancelled by Frost Mountain's pin, but this is all according to plan. Navi knew that they were going to lose players. They were setting up the Karmic Revival position to bring them all back.
But they have no defensive ultimates anymore. They use Soul Resurgence and Invisible Boundary at the same time, meaning there's no more healing abilities for Navi, meaning Shikigami, with the Galactic Legend, have the skies controlled. But here comes Terror out of the sky! The sharpshooting Hunter takes them down. Apex Predator through the group walls to look for an opening, and Navi could possibly have stabilized from that. Cocoon is still available for Jerky, so they can return to this fight and at least apply some healing to keep it going for a little bit longer. Crook on the flank grabs one more, and Shikigami on what looks like a clean opening are starting to get cleaned up. Wolverine for the focus down, gets that little bit of bonus health from that healing factor, but it's not enough. And the chase down from Navi is huge. 18 seconds on the board, and it's portal time for Shikigami.
It's portal time, but is it going to be clutch time? Because, again, like, Navi are about to hit the ultimates first. They're all split up as well, so Shikigami are going to lose out to the angles that Navi control currently. Out for the portal, they hop behind the cover of the Seraphim Shield from Kaya. We're in the overtime, but where's the endgame for Shikigami? Navi is close to Eternal Bond. Maybe you get it up in time. That's what you're looking for. Rajaro does get stunned. The Soul Bond comes on through from Navi. Terra claims the lives of the Wolverine, and Navi starts shredding through the players who unfortunately just cannot hold their position on the point itself, and overtime burns out before any ultimates have the chance of coming through. Full hold completed, and that feels a little bit more like personal revenge after the full hold against them earlier on Central Park. Terror with the MVP, and I mean, when we looked at the things that this guy was doing on the Elsa against the Angela, oh boy, do we have to wait for the matchup of Terror versus Sparker when it comes to who truly is the best Elsa Bloodstone in EMEA.
29 and 4 for KO, 17 final hits, and Terra with that pickup onto Leolaz as they came in with the Galactic Legend with no defensive tools available for Navi. If that had been left uncontested, that could have been Shikigami breaking that first point. Terra had himself positioned beautifully to avoid getting picked up and was able to just move forward in a way that he was able to track that Star-Lord perfectly, get the pickup, and secured that sustain for Navi, allowing them to regroup and hold the point long enough to actually win the round. Amazing execution. What a series, though, between these two teams.
Well, we wanted a close series. Exactly.
You gotta guess some of the predictions, I think. Like, people have predicted that Navi's just going to be at the top of the group just off the rip. It's probably better to just give them a little bit of a fright. Maybe not as much as other regions, potentially, but we do want to see Navi being challenged. It is early days yet, and Shikigami at least showing how the meta can change on Central Park at the very least, but everything else seems very much well suited towards this style of play that Navi are going for, right, Moxie?
Yeah, I mean, like we said, the moment we saw the ban draft and Navi's composition, it really did feel like they just had this focus of, we're going to go with a dive for the rest of our team so we can take as much space away from the enemy as possible, and we can let Terra do what Terra does best, which is just absolutely melt through everyone in his path. 34,000 damage done, by the way, on Museum of Contemplation, which translated into 17 final hits with an accuracy of 56%. I know we talked about, is it worth going for the instant ban on the Elsa or the Gambit, but against Navi, honestly, it's just as terrifying for both.
Scary prospect, I think. Some good moments, I think, on that map at the very least, like pretty much on some of the changes that Shikigami sort of made, some of the compositions that they were going for, stuff like a bit of the Hulk, Frost Mountain on the Wolverine, wasn't able to get the Daredevil, but it did seem a little bit like, okay, these teams that know their map picks and have got the choice of like these different ones. Interesting to see that Navi is using Museum, right, Tech?
It benefits them so much, though. We talked about it, just being able to dive so effectively, having that versatility to attack from multiple angles, and the fact that it is a map that's very hard to hold, while they have great angles with people like Elsa and Venom in particular. The fact that they went for a very classic triple strategist with the Adam, but it's the execution of it that I was happy with. Being able to make sure they had enough time for a portal back to continue to build Adam charge, not panicking and losing out on all that potential value and having to swap Adam really quickly on point 2 if they decide not to use it. It's the execution that is just the Na'Vi we've come to know and love.
I mean, let's not forget as well, before Level 1 Crook was known for his Loki performances back in mid-season, he was one of the OG Mantis mains, always trying to play the Mantis, so Na'Vi very much got a case of comfort picks for some of their team, and what looks like a new comfort pick for Terra.
It's a good mix, I would say. For this group, I suppose, for this, like, Na'Vi put themselves top with 2 wins so far out of 2. Shikigami, you guys had predicted Heretics to be above them at the end of group stages. Are you reconsidering it a little bit after watching Shikigami? Or do you think that sort of relies a little bit more on how Heretics are going to be looking as the weeks go on?
I mean, I'm gonna hold my my analysis until we actually get to see Heretics versus Shikigami on Convergence. Because, like, the Na'Vi that we got to see on Domination and Convoy was vastly different to the Na'Vi that we got on Convergence, which was sort of my theory, that Na'Vi will do really, really well when they're winning. They're a team that's very momentum-based, but the moment that they run into a problem that they can't quite solve super easily, because there are so many players who have the opportunity of being the clutch factor, it might be a case of too many cooks in the kitchen, and we see multiple different solutions, but no resources put into one specific one of them, so it's sort of like a jack of all trades, master of none situation.
In my predictions, there were 2 points that I was really stressing about, like, where to put people, and it was, who do I put, Heretics or Shikigami? And I decided to give Heretics the benefit of the doubt there, and the bottom of Group B, just seeing where those teams stat, like Vision, who are really performing well, Crownfall, everyone around that area. It's a stressful group where seeing where people land, these are the ones I really struggled with, and I feel happy with what I did because I made a choice, and that's difficult because choice anxiety is hard. But in terms of being right, I might not be. Honestly, these teams are all playing so well, and we'd love to see it.
A little bit of analysis paralysis, I suppose, but we do have an interview with the MVP of the mid-season finals, not the one that was playing the White Fox at the very least, but the counterpart that was playing the Lunar Snow. We've got Crook on the line in a second to go over. I think the main question that we have to start with, Crook, was that second map, that, like, the triple flyers, the torch. Did that catch you by surprise? Had you seen it in scrims before? Because it looked difficult to deal with.
I think they had a great ban line there, and they did catch us off 100%. We haven't scrimmed against it, and Central Park is also one of those maps where the Ultron Torch, back in the days when it was meta, it was the map to play it on, the best map for it. And I think they recognized that, so they applied it into this newer patch, newer iteration of the game. And yeah, we didn't have any answer for it, and we definitely have to think about that comp a bit more moving forward.
So looking then at some of the rest of the new comps, we got to see obviously the White Fox and you getting to play the Lunar Snow alongside it. As a strategist, does that change like any way that you approach in terms of positioning against things like the dive? Because you guys survived so insanely well against the full dive composition coming through on Krakoa.
Well, I mean, you get the Lunar White Fox team up as well, which is great to live. You can charm the Daredevil, the Cap, whoever is diving you, and once the Venom is banned out, dive is not as dangerous. I think right now Venom is a super strong dive hero, but Cap is not as lethal, and you can peel against it really well with the White Fox melee form, which also denies DD extremely well. If you look at a 1v1 perspective, White Fox is one of the only heroes that can actually win a 1v1 against Daredevil. There's not any other hero that can consistently do that.
And we've already talked about the compositions a little bit. I want to talk about the team itself. You obviously have a new member here in the form of Terra, coming all the way over from the Americas. How is this fitting together as a roster? How are you all gelling moving into this new year?
Well, I mean, we're getting used to each other. It can be a bit heated. It is personalities clashing against each other. So sometimes it's not that easy, but I think we're improving. I think we're getting to know the meta more and more, and we keep figuring stuff out. There's new challenges every day, and we just do our best to get past them.
A day at a time, which I think was pretty much like your most successful approach, right? Thinking about like grand finals and stuff and how you managed to move through it. I did want to ask, with the meta changes as well, like the less ultimates and stuff, and obviously White Fox being added in, some changes to Gambit, which of like the roles do you think is having the most impact right now? Because if it's strategists, the meta leans very nicely to you and Fate, right? Because you are both so creative with the characters that you play. You're very good on all of the characters, whether they're meta or a bit more niche. Or do you think like Vanguard's duelists hold a lot of the power this patch?
Difficult question to answer off the top of my head, but it very much depends on the style which the enemy team is playing. Generally speaking, though, I think strategists have more impact now with White Fox in the game, Ultron being back, Mantis being pretty good, Gambit being pretty good. Those are kind of the heroes that you can carry on. Cloak and Loki somewhat, but on Cloak, it's pretty hard to have a massive impact on the game besides having well-timed Fates and well-timed ults. So yeah, I'm enjoying this meta quite a bit right now. Before it was very Elsa dominated, but of course Elsa has seen many nerfs now. So she's not as prevalent anymore in the meta, which I do think is healthy for the game. And Vanguard, well, the Vanguard, it's kind of in the middle. They have impact, but if you're on Angela and stuff, you're kind of just playing to punish people and you don't really initiate anything.
I mean, there's so many moving parts, I suppose, and it's all still being worked out. Final question, really quickly. We've been deliberating a lot of like Shikigami versus Heretics, like who is like the team right behind you in that group? You've already played Shikigami. Are you looking at Heretics being like a tougher opponent, or do you think it's about even with how those two teams are?
I think on paper and looking at results, Heretics are for sure the stronger team. But I do think this is a great meta for Shikigami. It fits their playstyle pretty well. So it's gonna come down to the ban phase, who's gonna win, in my opinion.
Amazing. I mean, I'm excited to see you guys play. You are up against Peps tomorrow, so I'll let you sort of chill out for a little bit. We'll see you in action then. And thanks again, Brock, for tuning in and giving us some of your insight.
Thank you too. Bye-bye.
It's always nice to get like deep answers, certainly from the strategists, because it feels really like they are the ones that hold all of the cards. Quite literally if you're playing Gambit, Moxie, but it's very much like that's the backline that you want when stuff is moving as quickly as this in this map.
Yeah, I mean, it's always down to the backline in terms of ult tracking as well, right? So they have to have a really good read on what exactly the meta is turning into and what are the winnable fights for them when they get pressured.
I'm excited really to see where the limits are for both of these teams and whether there's going to be more twists and turns. But this next game is a really good one. We get to see some of the Saudi Arabian teams really start to show off how good they are in Ignite with a battle from the region. We're going to be seeing exactly how Crownfall versus Vision is going to go after a break.